Welcome to chapter 37. Elihu relates the sovereignty of the Lord. This is the last we hear of Elihu. Basically, he's relating the attributes of God, which would be his sovereignty would be included in that. And this is all preparing us for a response by the Lord in chapter 38 to the end of the book, chapter 42. I'll read a little in the Greek and then we'll go into the chapter. Ke apotavtis hetarachthi ikardiamu, ke aperisi ek tu topu avtis. Akue akoin in orgi thimu kiriu, ke meleti ek stomatos avtu exolevsete. And from this my heart is disturbed, says Elihu, and was dropped down from out of its place. Hear a report in anger of rage of the Lord, and a meditation from out of his mouth shall come forth. And so he is disturbed because of the things of God. Now, many people, if they don't believe in God, they're not disturbed by the things of God. But what would disturb a person of the things of God? Well, his holiness and our sin in retrospect, as we see it, compared to what Jesus would have us to be, would cause us to have our heart drop down more or less, like it says there. And the rage of God, we don't see it with our sin, but maybe God is raging at us, wants to destroy us. It mentions that in the Old Testament quite a bit, how God was angry with the people and wanted to destroy them. And how many times in our sin is God angry in rage? But it says, a meditation from out of his mouth shall come forth. The meditation from out of his mouth to me would be the person of Jesus Christ. His word became flesh. The word, the Logos, became sarx. The word became flesh. And the flesh, Jesus says, you must devour my flesh. In the book of John. So devouring his word. Underneath all the heaven is his arche, sovereignty. God controls everything under the heaven, so that would be on the earth for us. And his light, which is above, is from the sun reflecting, is upon the wings of the earth, tips of the earth. The sun shines. After him a voice shall yell out, and shall thunder with the sound of his insult, and shall not bargain then that one shall hear his voice. Now, do we hear the voice of God? Now, he's relating it here. We'll see the strong one will thunder wonders with his voice. But I believe we hear the voice of God through his word. And as I mentioned so many times, our sound pattern goes through the air from our thought into somebody else's ear, but God uses writing, and we hear his voice through his writing. The strong one will thunder wonders with his voice. The word of God is a wonder, and it's strong. He established a season for animals, and they know the order of the fold, and animals have DNA put in them, instructions, and they act a certain way. You can be pretty certain that you would not want to pick up a rattlesnake because it will bite you with poison and you will die. And you don't want to mess around aggravating a lion or a bear. They can do a lot of damage. So they have that within them. But then you can see a little dog wagging its tail at you, sitting there waiting to be petted. petted. So you know that that animal is safe. Within that animal is different instructions. So the Lord has established a season. I don't know, would you call it more than a season? It's the DNA, and they know the order of the fold. They know what to do. Upon all these things, your thought is not receded, nor is your heart reconciled from your body. So we know these things as being human beings, and we can reconcile them. For he did great things, and he being God, which we knew not. He's ordering the snow, saying, be upon the earth. So God is in charge of nature. There's no such thing. Well, you can call it nature, I suppose, but it's not Mother Nature. And the winter reign of his command. And you can add that word dynasty or a command, dynastias. In the hand of every man, he seals up that every man should know his own weakness. We certainly do know our own weaknesses. God has given us a thought pattern that we know danger, that we might get harmed. Now, that's not necessarily true with the animals, because I was just watching a video of this little dog, like a Cocker Spaniel, in front of a cougar. And he's running there barking at this huge cougar, and the cougar just jumped on him and grabbed him with its mouth, and that was the end of that little Cocker Spaniel. The old Cocker Spaniel didn't know. It didn't know his weakness. But we do. We have fear of things. We should fear things. And the wild beasts entered under the protection and are tranquil in their lair. So the wild beasts are also in control by God. From out of the inner chambers come griefs, and from extremities, chilliness. And the extremities would be like the north, cold weather coming. And inner chambers, sort of relating it here to nature, really. And we can have bad weather from these inner chambers, and this is what I believe it's talking about. And we can have grief. We can have tornadoes coming from this inner chamber. All of a sudden they appear. Hurricanes, tidal waves, and so forth. And from the breath of the strong one, that would be God, God appoints ice. And he steers the water wherever he should want. And the ocean stops right close, half a block from my house. I can almost I can't throw a rock that far, but pretty close. It always pretty much stays the same place, doesn't go over it. It levels out, and supposedly this global warming scare we've had about 10 or 20 years now of all the oceans rising. Why the oceans are rising and the land's not going down, I'm not quite sure, but the ocean still stops at the same place, pretty much with the tides. It can be a low tide and a high tide, but it doesn't change. It hasn't changed in my lifetime. Now, it may, climate does change, of course, but God is in control, even of the tides in the ocean where it stops. And if a chosen cloud covers over, then his light disperses the cloud. And I've been waiting for the clouds to clear and do some painting, so the sun would dry the paint on my stairs, and finally it did. We've had a lot of fog here. God brought the fog, and the fog comes from moisture and hot air and cold air coming together and so forth. On the beach, we have a lot of fog, but the sun came through finally, and I was able to paint, and my stairs dried. The first day, I painted half of the stairs, and then all of a sudden the fog came in that night, and the next morning it was tacky. It wasn't dry. And I was, oh no, I hope I don't have to do this all over again. And he shall turn aside the swirls by his rule for performing their works, and cloud swirls, I would imagine, all as much as he should give charge to them. Now, the whole thing here Elihu is trying to show is that God is in charge of the nature. And a lot of people don't think that. They just think it's all from the Big Bang and everything happens. I don't know. They think it's an accident. Can't believe anybody would think that, but I'm not exactly sure how they rationalize the things on this earth, where the rest of the cosmos, as we have seen, is all rocks. These things were ordered by him upon the earth, and there the earth is the subject, whether for instruction or whether for his land or whether for an object of his mercy, he shall find it. And I guess the he would be man, ordered to him. For instruction, God gives us instruction and allows us a land to live on. Give ear to these things, O Job. Stand admonished by the power of the Lord. Kyriou. And then Theos here. We know that God, Theos, established his works, making light from out of darkness. And he knows the distinction of clouds. He should, because Jesus went up back to heaven on a cloud and he'll return that way. And the extraordinary, calamitous downfalls of the wicked. And God knows what's going to happen to the wicked. He knew what was going to happen with Judas Iscariot. And your apparel is hot, but there is tranquility upon the earth from the south. Now, what I'm guessing here is he's talking about some type of a cooling wind. Will you solidify with him for things grown old, things which are strong as the vision of a vessel? And I'm not exactly, it's kind of a strange verse here. Will you solidify him, things grow old? Will you know these things? Why teach me? What shall we say to him? Then we should cease from saying much, because if we can't say anything to God, as far as to tell him how things are going, then why talk? Now we can praise him and ask him prayer, supplication for things, for other people, and so forth. Is there a book or scribe standing besides me that I should quell a man, besides me that standing I should quell a man? Well, no, there wasn't, but now there is. This was Job, was before Genesis, I believe, any of the writings. But now we do have the Bible. But the light is not visible to all. It is radiant among the things grown old, as if from him upon the clouds. Well, the light is not visible to everybody, of course, at nighttime on the other side of the world, but it radiates still. From the north are clouds, shining like gold. In these, the glory and the honor from the Almighty is great. Clouds. The glory of Jesus is mentions in, I think, Ezekiel, that Ezekiel saw a man on the cloud. Jesus, the glory of God. And we do not find another likened to his strength. He's the one judging the just ones. Don't you imagine that he listens? Therefore, men shall fear him, and even the wise ones shall fear in heart. So Elihu ends with that. We should fear God. And Jesus says, fear the one who is able not to harm your body, but send you into Hades, basically, where the fire does not die, is not quenched. That's who we are to fear. A lot of good words coming out of Elihu. Next chapter, we get now to the crux of the book, with the Lord replying. Hope you'll join us in chapter 38, find out what the Lord has to say to me and you. Till then, God bless.